The starborn ship flew through the core of the galaxy faster than it had ever gone before. Its energy was full, its memory unlocked, its purpose finally clear. Inside, Jace and Valari stood side by side, watching as their destination appeared Laris. The capital of the Council's power, a planet made of crystal towers, golden skies, and endless layers of control. But today, something different was coming. Something they could not silence anymore. Jace took a deep breath. This is it. Valaria looked at him, her voice calm but strong. We go together, the ship prepared. A live transmission connected to every world in the galaxy. Billions would watch, listen, and judge. The truth would no longer be hidden in shadows. It would shine like a light too bright to block. The Council had expected them. Warships hovered around the planet, their weapons charged on the surface. Soldiers marched into the city, setting up shields and lockdowns, but they didn't fire, not yet. The Chancellor stood inside the Grand Hall, his face calm, his hands folded. Let them speak, he said to the others. Then we strike. The starborn ship landed on the high platform in front of the Council Hall. Crowds had gathered, unsure of what to expect. Some held fear in their eyes, others held curiosity. Valari stepped out first, followed by Jace. Holding the memory core in his hand, he raised it slowly. And the ship projected a glowing star map above the city. The voice of the ship echoed across the sky. Ancient record accessed. History correction in progress. The holograms showed the past, the age of peace. The alliance between humans and aliens. The betrayal by those in power. Images of the lost moon. The secret archive on Zeros. And the war that changed everything played in the air. The people watched in silence. Some gasped, others cried. Truth had arrived not as a weapon, but as memory. Jace stepped forward, speaking with a clear voice. We were told we were strangers, outsiders, enemies. But the ship showed us the truth. We were once allies, creators, protectors of peace, and now we can be again. Valari added, I was raised to hate, to fear humans, but he saved me. Not just with power, but with choice. He chose peace when he could. Have chosen revenge inside the Council Hall. Some elders looked shaken, others looked angry. The Chancellor stood, voice cold. This is emotional nonsense. The boy speaks lies backed by stolen tech. But then, from the sky, a second ship appeared, old, massive, marked with the same starborn symbol it had awakened to, answering. The call sent from Zeros, and behind it came another, and then another. More ships, more people. From forgotten corners of the galaxy, each carrying proof, memory, and hope. The crowd below began to cheer. The soldiers lowered their weapons, even some of the council guards stepped back in confusion. The Chancellor shouted, This is an attack on order. Jace turned to him, calm and steady. No, this is an invitation to truth. Suddenly, the ground shook. Alarms blared. A hidden fleet near the moon of Alaris began firing. Trying to destroy the memory beacons, the starborn ship activated its defenses, shielding the city. Jace looked at Valari. We have to stop it. Now, they rushed back into the ship. Taking the pilot seat together, the core pulsed bright, and the ship responded with full power. They flew into the sky, dodging enemy fire. Moving like lightning between blasts, Jace locked onto the enemy flagship. Valari sent out a broadcast. This is your last chance. Stand down or face the truth with fire. The flagship ignored them and fired directly at the capital. The starborn ship intercepted, absorbing the blast with a glowing shield. Jace fired one controlled shot, disabling the enemy's weapons without destroying them. The fleet powered down, slowly retreating. The battle ended not with blood, but with control. They returned to the city, where the crowd now cheered loudly. The Chancellor had vanished. His power broken, the council was silent, unsure of what to do. But the people had already made their choice. Valari looked at Jace, her voice soft. "You're no longer just a pilot." He smiled. "And you're no longer just a guardian." The ship projected one last message across the stars. Alliance restored. Path to unity reopened. As the sun rose over Alaris, change had already begun. Walls were falling, truths were rising. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy breathed free again. Jace stood on the ship's platform, looking at the stars. They were no longer a mystery. They were a home he had helped heal. And beside him, Valari smiled, knowing she had chosen the right side of history. Together, they were no longer from two worlds. They were the beginning of one. The starborn ship flew through deep space, silent and steady. Its path was clear now, leading to the place all others feared, the lost moon. This moon had no name, no signals, and no light. It floated near a collapsed star, where even the stars refused to shine, yet the ship moved with purpose, as if it remembered the way home. Jay stood at the front window, his eyes fixed on the growing shadow in the distance. Valari sat beside him, her hands resting on her knees. Neither of them spoke. For a long time, they both felt it something heavy, ancient, and waiting. The ship whispered, "Second core detected. Location, central vault." The moon's surface was cracked and dry, covered in dust and strange black stones. They landed near a jagged mountain, where a glowing doorway stood half buried in the ground. Valari looked at it, her voice quiet. "I heard stories of this place, where time is silent and voices vanish." Jace stepped out of the ship. The air was still, and sound seemed distant. Even his footsteps felt like echoes of echoes. Inside the mountain, the walls were smooth, made of black crystal. Their reflections followed them in strange ways. Sometimes, Jace saw his reflection moving before he did. Valari whispered, "This place doesn't follow the rules of normal space," he replied. "It feels like the past is alive here." They walked for minutes or maybe hours, till they reached a round chamber. In the center stood a pillar, and on it, the second core. It was smaller than they expected, glowing gently. Shaped like a teardrop made of light, Jace reached out. But the moment his fingers touched it, the room flashed bright blue. The walls lit up with symbols. Voices filled the air, not with sound, but with thoughts. They saw memories, not just of war, but of unity, aliens and humans building together, laughing, living, dreaming of peace. And then came the betrayal. The silence, the wiping of history. Valari stepped forward, her eyes wet. "We were never enemies," Jace nodded. "They made us believe we were." The core pulsed, and the ship spoke through their minds. This moon was sealed to protect the truth. Now the core must return to awaken the full power. But before they could move, the ground shook. A deep rumble echoed through the cave. Jace looked at Valari. "That's not natural." Suddenly, the entrance exploded, and smoke filled the chamber. Dark figures stepped through the Dust Council hunters. Armed with shock spears and silent drones, Valari pulled out her plasma blade. "They followed us." Jace held the core close. "We need to get back to the ship." The hunters moved fast. Trained to capture without mercy, Valari blocked two with her staff. Her strikes fast and sharp. Jace dodged behind her, shielding the core from harm. One hunter reached for Jace, but the core glowed bright in his hand. A burst of energy pushed the enemy back like a wave. Valari gasped. "The core is protecting." Jace felt heat in his chest, like the ship's power was inside him now. He turned and ran toward the exit, Valari close behind. The moon shook again, as if reacting to the battle. They burst out into the open air, sprinting across the dry field toward the ship. The sky above had turned strange colors, swirling like oil. The starborn ship opened its ramp, glowing bright like a beacon. Jace leaped in and placed the core into the chamber port. The ship's voice grew deeper. stronger, core accepted. Power levels rising. Weapons and defenses unlocked. Valari jumped in after him, slamming the door shut outside. The hunter surrounded the ship, ready to destroy it. But now, the ship was awake, fully awake. It rose into the air, shields pulsing with energy. Laser fire hit the sides, but bounced off. Like sparks, Jace looked at Valari. It's stronger now. She smiled. So are we. Jace took the controls. And the ship responded like lightning. It fired beams of blue light, disabling the enemy ships without killing. In seconds, the moon was silent again. The Council's forces had failed once more. As they flew away, the moon began to shift behind them. The ancient systems that had been asleep for ages were starting to collapse. The core had been the key, and now that it was removed, the place would fade into darkness again. Valari looked back one last time. We were never meant to forget. Jace replied, now we never will. The ship showed them a new path back to the stars. But this time it was different. They weren't just running anymore. They were carrying power, truth, and something even more rare, hope. The kind that could break walls, change minds, and end lies that lasted for centuries, far ahead. The Council was preparing its final plan. They knew the human had become more than a threat. He was a symbol now, and the alien girl by his side was no longer just a guardian, she was a rebel. With a cause, the war wasn't over. It was just beginning. The starborn ship moved quietly through a dark corner of space. The glow of the second core pulsed deep inside the engine chamber. Power surged through the walls, stronger than ever. Yet peace did not return. Something was building a storm, not in the stars, but in the hearts of those watching. Jace sat alone in the control room, watching old star maps play in the air. He could feel the ship learning from him, guiding him, connecting to his thoughts. But he also felt something heavier, warning deep inside his chest. Valari entered silently, her face serious. We received a signal, she said. Hey, someone wants to meet, says they can help. Jace looked at her, unsure. Who? She hesitated. His name is Kyrax. My old teacher, a former guardian like me. Jace frowned. Can we trust him? Valari looked away. I don't know, but he trained me when I was young. He taught me to question the Council. The ship arrived at a quiet asteroid station hidden behind a broken moon. It looked abandoned, rusted, but lights blinked from within. Valari and Jace stepped out, both alert, both ready. They found Kyrax waiting in the main hall, tall and calm, with silver armor and tired eyes. Valari, he said softly, I feared you were dead. She stepped forward slowly. You saw the transmission. He nodded. The truth was hidden for too long, but now it cannot be stopped. Jace watched carefully, his instincts sharp. There was something strange in the way Kyrax spoke. Too calm, too smooth. Still, Valari smiled. Then you believe us? Kyrax looked at her. I believe in peace, but not in chaos. Before Jace could respond, the floor under him shifted. Metal arms rose up and grabbed his legs, locking him in place. The ceiling opened, and drones flew down. Circling them, Valari shouted, What are you doing? Kyrax's face changed, colder now. I believe the truth is dangerous in the wrong hands. And this human is a spark for war. Jace struggled. You don't understand what's coming. The Council is preparing something worse. Kyrax stepped closer. I understand better than you. Boy, I was part of it once. Valari moved to free Jace. But Kyrax drew his staff, blocking her path. You've seen what he can do. The ship follows him. The people follow him. He raised his voice. But what happens when he loses control? Valari raised her staff, her voice shaking. You taught me to think for myself. Now let me think. He's not the danger. Your fear is. The drones moved in, but the ship, still orbiting outside, sensed the threat. It activated a defense protocol, beaming a pulse of energy down to the station in a flash. The walls shook, lights burst, and the metal arms unlocked. Jace fell to the floor, rolled, and grabbed Valari's hand. Together, they ran through the falling rubble, chased by drones, firing stun beams. Kyrok shouted, "You can't stop this. The galaxy doesn't want the truth. It wants order." Valari looked back one last time, her heart broken. "You were like a father," she whispered, "but you chose fear." They reached the ship just in time. The ramp closed as the engines roared to life. The station behind them began to collapse. Not from damage, but from old decay. It had stood too long on lies. And now it was crumbling like the Council's power. Inside the ship, Jace leaned against the wall. Catching his breath, Valari sat beside him, silent, her eyes full of pain. "I trusted him," she said. "I thought he would stand with us." Jace looked at her. "So did I. But now we know how deep this goes." The ship projected new data, showing a coded message from a rebel group. They had seen the truth and wanted to meet. Valari wiped her eyes and stood, stronger now. "We're not alone anymore," she said. "The people are waking up." Jace nodded, "and the Council is scared." The ship showed its final destination, Aliris. The heart of the Council. Valari's breath caught. "You want to go there?" Jace answered, "Not to fight, to show them the truth in front of the galaxy." Far away, Kyrox watched from a hidden pod, alive and bitter. He sent a message to the Chancellor. "They're heading for Aliris. Prepare the defense grid." The Chancellor replied with a smile. "Let them come. They want a stage wheel, give them one." The war was no longer secret. It was rising now, in the open. But so was the hope that came with it. A human, a rebel alien, and a ship that carried the forgotten heart of the stars, and soon the galaxy would have to choose truth or silence. The starborn ship flew through hyperspace like a streak of light. Inside, Jace and Valari stood before the glowing star map. It showed their path through the galaxy, and at the edge of it, a blinking point, the lost moon. But something else pulsed behind them on the map. Ships, many of them, following fast. Valari's voice trembled. "It's them. The Council sent a fleet." Jace stared at the map, jaw tight. "They want to stop us before we find the truth on the Council's homeworld." A great hall stood in silence. 12 alien leaders, each from a different species, sat in a wide circle of floating chairs. Above them hovered a live feed of the starborn ship moving through space. One elder spoke coldly. The prophecy warned, "As if the ship wakes, so will the ancient war." Another snapped, "And now a human flies it." The silence was heavy. Then the High Chancellor stood. His voice sharp. "Send the vortex guards. Bring back the ship, dead or alive. Back." On the ship, Jace felt something strange in his head. The ship was whispering again his feelings. Words he didn't fully understand. It was warning him, showing him glimpses of past battles, ancient explosions, burned planets. Valari watched him closely. "You look pale. What is it showing you?" Jace answered, "A war long ago, like a memory playing in my mind." The ship spoke. "The war ended the first age. This pilot must prevent the second." Valari sat down quietly, her thoughts spinning. She remembered the stories, the ones told in secret scrolls. The Council always claimed the Starborn War was fiction. But if the ship remembered it, and if Jace could see it, then it was real. Why would they hide this? She asked softly. Jace looked at her. "Because the truth is dangerous." Suddenly, the ship jolted, alarms blaring. A massive object blocked their path out of hyperspace. A giant alien warship appeared. Shaped like a floating claw, it fired a warning shot across their bow. Valari shouted, "That's a vortex guard ship." Elite Council hunters, Jace gripped the controls. But the ship didn't let him fire. Instead, It whispered, "No weapons, only escape." And with a burst of blue light, the starborn ship shot downward, diving into the orbit of a gas planet nearby. Inside the vortex ship, Commander Trell barked. "Orders, follow them, disable their systems, and extract the pilot." His eyes burned with pride. Loyal to the Council, he didn't believe in prophecies, only power to him. Jace was just another mistake to be erased. Jace pushed the ship downward, flying through clouds filled with storms. Lighting cracked around them, and winds howled against the ship's hull. But the starborn ship held steady. As if it had flown this path before, Valari held onto the wall. Her voice tight, "This is madness." Jace didn't blink. It's the only way to lose them. The vortex ship followed close, firing bursts of plasma. One shot hit the ship's wing, shaking it hard. Sparks flew, and the star map glitched. The ship warned, "Damage detected, repairs required." Jace turned the ship sharply, diving into the thickest cloud. Suddenly, everything went dark, silent and still, inside the vortex ship. The commander cursed. "We lost them," a soldier said. Trell growled, "Scan every cloud. They won't hide for long, deep inside the storm." The starborn ship floated quietly, shielded by the clouds. Jace and Valari breathed heavily. The moment was calm, but danger still surrounded them. "We can't keep running," Valari said. "They'll never stop." Jace looked at her. "Then we stop them with the truth." The ship lit up again, showing a new path, not toward the lost moon, but toward a forgotten archive world, Zyros. Valari gasped. "That world was erased from our maps." The ship said, "It holds proof of the Council's lies." Jace stood slowly. "Then we go there first." Far behind them, the vortex ship searched blindly. But in the Council chamber, the Chancellor smiled coldly. "They can run, but the truth won't save them," he said. "Prepare the Hunter class." Cruisers, the Council's fury had just begun. Meanwhile, in the starborn ship's silent core, something began to glow. A hidden chamber, unopened for centuries, sensed Jace's presence inside it. A crystal pulsed faintly ancient data ready to awaken. Valari stared at it as the doors opened. "This ship is more than a weapon," she said. Jace nodded. "It's history and maybe hope." The ship powered back to life, engines humming again. It turned toward Zyros, flying faster than before. The stars ahead shimmered with danger, but also with answers. And neither Jace nor Valari would stop now, not until the galaxy remembered what it tried to forget. The stars outside stretched like silver threads as the starborn ship flew faster than any known craft. Inside the control room, Jace watched the glowing map shift as the ship guided them toward a new destinations, Yaros. Valari stood beside him, silent but focused. Her mind was full of questions. Why had this world been erased from records? Why had the Council kept it hidden? And why was the ship leading them there now? "The truth is waiting," the ship said in its deep voice. Jace looked at Valari. "Whatever's on that planet." The Council didn't want anyone to find it. Valari nodded. "My people were told it was destroyed long ago." Burned by solar flares, the ship pulsed gently. False history, planted to erase evidence as they neared the system. The stars around them flickered strangely. Then, the ship dropped out of hyperspace, and the planet Zyros appeared. It was not dead. It was alive, covered in green forests, deep oceans, and strange glowing towers. Valari gasped. "This place. It's beautiful." They landed near one of the old towers, vines growing across its metal frame. The door opened slowly, like it had been waiting. Jace and Valari stepped inside together. The air was thick but warm, filled with floating blue dust that shimmered in the light. Old alien symbols covered the walls, and the silence inside felt heavy, like the past was holding its breath. In the center, they found a round platform, and on it, a crystal pedestal, the ship's voice echoed. Through Jace's mind, place your hand on the memory core. He stepped forward and gently pressed his palm against the surface. The room lit up in blue light. A hologram appeared, showing scenes from long ago. Valari's eyes widened as she saw what played before them. It was the Starborn Age, humans, and aliens working together, building ships, discovering new worlds, protecting peace. They weren't enemies, they were allies. They weren't newcomers, they were the architects of the galaxy's balance. The vision changed. A war broke out, not started by humans, but by a faction inside the Alien Council. Those leaders feared human strength, feared what would happen. If humans rose too fast, so they betrayed them, they launched an attack during a peace summit, wiping out entire human colonies. Then they rewrote history to hide the truth. Valari couldn't move. Her people had taught her to believe that humans were dangerous, primitive, wild. But now she saw the truth. Her ancestors were the ones who betrayed their friends, and the council still lived under that lie. Tears welled in her eyes. Jace looked at her gently. "You didn't know?" She nodded. "No, but I do now." Suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the tower. A signal the Vortex Guard had found them again. The ship warned, enemy units approaching. Time to leave is short. Jace turned to the hologram. "Can we take this memory?" "With us?" the ship answered. Data stored, ready to transmit. They rushed back to the ship as drones appeared in the sky. Blasts shook the ground behind them, but the starborn ship lifted into the air just in time as they broke through. The clouds, more enemy ships entered the atmosphere. Valari gritted her teeth. "They'll destroy the planet to hide the truth again." Jace nodded. "Then we need to show the galaxy before they do." The ship began transmitting the memory across secure channels, one by one, ancient satellites forgotten, but still. Alive picked up the signal. It spread like fire through the stars, reaching hidden resistance groups, rogue scientists, and old explorers. The truth could no longer be buried, but the council saw it too, in the Chamber of Elders. Screens lit up in red. Panic filled the room. The Chancellor stood and roared. Shut down the signal. Now, but it was too late. The truth had already spread, and for the first time in centuries. The people began to question their leaders. Back. Aboard the starborn ship, Jace sat down in the pilot seat. His eyes glowed faint blue. The ship was no longer just reacting to him, it was connected. Valari sat beside him. No longer a guardian of the old ways. Now, she was his ally. His partner. Together, they had broken the silence of the stars. The ship pulsed again, showing a new destination, the lost moon. The second core still waited, and it held the key to awakening the ship's full power. Jace looked at Valari. "Are you ready for what's next?" She nodded firmly. "Whatever comes, we face it together." Behind them, Zyros faded into the distance. Safe for now, but ahead of them, war was coming. The council would not fall without a fight. And the truth, though free, was only the beginning. The stars whispered old names, old promises, and old wounds. But now, a human and an alien girl were rewriting the future one secret at a time. Asterisk. In the far edge of the galaxy, a hidden planet floated in silence. Its skies were dark. Its surface covered in sharp mountains and glowing blue dust. This planet, called Velmara, was home to an ancient secret, the starborn ship. No one had flown it for 10,000 years. Many tried, many failed. The alien elders called it cursed. Others called it sleeping. But no one expected what would happen next. Jace, a young human pilot, had crashed on Velmara during a scouting mission. His ship was damaged, his cums were dead. He wandered alone through rocky valleys, searching for shelter. Soon, he reached a massive crater surrounded by glowing stones, and in the center, half buried in the dust, was something huge and silent. It was shaped like a black triangle, smooth and shining like glass. Jace stared at it, feeling a strange pull in his chest. The air felt heavy, but warm. Without knowing why, he stepped closer, high above. Hidden behind a crystal wall, Valari watched him. She was an alien girl, tall, elegant, with glowing skin and silver hair. She had trained for years as a guardian. Her duty was to protect the ship and stop any intruder. But when she saw Jace, something was different. The ship did not sound alarms. It pulsed softly, like it recognized him. "No one should be able to approach," she whispered, confused. She grabbed her plasma staff and jumped down the ledge. Jace didn't see her at first. He touched the ship's side, and suddenly, a blue light ran across its surface. The ground shook gently, a loud hum filled the air. Then the ship opened a door. Valari shouted, "Stop, human. Step back now." Jace turned, hands up. Surprised, "I didn't mean to do anything," he said. "It just responded to me." Valari kept her staff pointed, unsure what to do. "No one has ever entered it," she said slowly. "Not even me." Jace looked at the doorway, still glowing. "Maybe it's time someone did," he replied. Valari hesitated, then followed him as he stepped inside. The hallway inside was dark, but smooth and alive. Blue lights lit up wherever Jace walked. The ship was responding, moving, welcoming. Valari's heart raced. This wasn't right. How could a human bond with something her people had guarded for centuries? Jace reached the control chamber. In the center was a glowing seat, shaped like a throne. As he stepped closer, the ship's walls shifted, revealing old symbols and holograms. He placed his hand on a glowing circle. Instantly, the ship spoke. In an old, deep voice, pilot confirmed, access granted. Valari froze, eyes wide. "No, no. This isn't possible," she whispered. Jace turned to her. "It's talking to me. Do you hear it?" She shook her head. "I hear nothing. It speaks only to you." Then, the floor showed them a star map. A red light blinked far away. The voice continued, "Warning, Warfleet approaching. Activation required." Valari gasped. The council had led. They said the galaxy was at peace, but the ship saw danger, real danger. Jace sat in the pilot seat, and it adjusted to his body. His eyes glowed faint blue. Valari stepped closer, unsure if she should stop him or help him. "Why would it choose you?" she asked. Jace looked at her calmly. "I don't know. But maybe it's not about blood or race. Maybe it's about purpose, outside." The skies above Velmara began to shift. Clouds broke apart, and old energy returned to the air. The ship was waking up after 10,000 years, and it had chosen a human. Valari lowered her weapon slowly. She looked at him not as a threat now, but as a mystery. One that could change everything she believed in. But the council would not understand. They would hunt him, maybe even her. And time was running out. The ship pulsed again, as if waiting for its next command. Jace looked at the controls, then at Valari. "If you want to stop me, now is your chance," he said. Valari took a breath, then said softly, "No. I want to know why it chose you." And just like that, 2 lives, 1 human, 1 alien stepped into the unknown together. The stars outside burned brighter. The galaxy had just changed, and neither of them knew what was coming next. The starborn ship hummed with energy as Jace sat in the glowing pilot seat. The control lights responded to his thoughts, shifting like waves under his fingertips. He wasn't trained, yet somehow the ship moved with him. It was as if it understood his presence. His instincts, his heart. Valari stood beside him, watching. In disbelief, she had spent years studying this ship, hoping one day it would choose her, but it had never responded, not even once. She whispered, "This should be impossible." Jace looked at her. What if it's not about who's supposed to control it, but who needs to? The words echoed in the silence outside. The skies of Velmara shifted from gray to blue. The ship was sending out a signal, a soft pulse across the stars. A message had been triggered, and someone, somewhere, would hear it. Valari touched the control wall, but it remained cold. No lights appeared, no sounds. It rejected her, as it always had. But with Jace, it was different. It welcomed him like an old friend. The chamber lit up around him, revealing more ancient symbols. He didn't know the language, but somehow he understood the meaning. A war long forgotten, a warning, and now a second chance. Jace stood up. It's showing me things, memories maybe, or visions. Valari stepped back, her voice low. The elders said the ship was cursed. That only death came from it? Jace replied. Maybe they were afraid of what they didn't understand. He walked to the center of the chamber, where a small orb floated in the air. The ship spoke again. Pilot bonded. Data unlocked. The orb opened, and a small star map appeared, showing planets Valari had never seen before. One of them blinked red. She asked, "What is that?" Jace focused on it, and more details appeared. "Something's coming," he said. "A fleet. Not from your people, and not from Earth either." Valari's breath caught. The threat wasn't just a rumor, was real. And only the starborn ship could warn the galaxy. Suddenly, alarms blared inside the ship. A new voice echoed in Valari's communicator. "Guardian Valari, return at once. We have detected the human intruder." She looked at Jace, torn between duty and instinct. "I'm supposed to arrest you," she said quietly. "They'll think you're a threat." Jace didn't move. "I probably am to their lies." His words were calm, but heavy. Valari knew he wasn't wrong. For too long. The council had hidden truths from the people. They feared the past, feared the ship, feared what it might reveal. And now that fear was turning into something dangerous. A sudden flash of light struck the air above the ship. A drone scout had found them, Valari cursed under her breath. "They're coming," she said. "We need to leave this place." Jace nodded. "Can the ship fly?" Valari answered, "It never has, not for anyone." Jace returned to the pilot seat and whispered, "Then let's see if I'm really the one." The ship reacted instantly, engines powering up with a deep rumble. The ground shook, rocks floated in the air, and lightning cracked across the crater. Valari gripped the wall, stunned as the ship began to rise. The triangle-shaped craft lifted smoothly, gracefully, like it had just awakened from sleep. The drone tried to shoot, but the ship created a glowing shield. The lasers bounced off harmlessly. Valari's mouth hung open. This is impossible." Jace smiled slightly. "Feels normal to me," as they flew into the sky. The view of Velmara grew smaller. Valari looked down at the land she once vowed to protect. Now, she was flying away from might beside a human who had unlocked the greatest power in her world. She didn't know what the future held, but something deep inside told her this was only the beginning. Inside the ship, the lights guided them to a new chamber. This one was different, darker, older, almost sacred. In the center stood a tall crystal with a pulse like a heartbeat, the ship said. "Second core required." Destination: Lost Moon. Jace looked at Valari. "What's the Lost Moon?" She shook her head. "A myth, a dead place and old stories." The ship responded, "Not myth, memory." Valari stepped beside Jace, her doubts slowly fading. She saw now that this ship was more than a machine. It was a memory keeper, a gatekeeper, of forgotten history, and somehow it had chosen Jace to unlock it. She placed her hand gently over his. "I don't know why it chose you," she said, "but I'll help you find out." Jace nodded, his eyes serious. "Then let's go find the Lost Moon." As the stars stretched before them, the starborn ship vanished into hyperspace, and somewhere deep in the galaxy, ancient forces began to stir. The ship had chosen, and the universe would never be the same again.